Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Honest Careers. Today, I'm interviewing Daniel Valentin, and we're going to be walking through his ability to move past a really serious disability, his struggles through multiple business ventures, and his ultimate decision to take a job in corporate finance. We're also going to be chatting about his decision, why and how he decided to quit that job in corporate finance, his journey into becoming an e-commerce seller, all while he shares his unique insights on becoming an Amazon FBA seller. So this interview is jam-packed. Let's jump right in. Hey, everybody, welcome to the channel, and thanks so much for joining today. We have a very, very special guest, Daniel Valentin, and Daniel has a very interesting story. When I first met Daniel, we were roommates. We were going to be living together for the entire summer, living in Cebu. And as you guys can imagine, you're probably thinking the same thing. You're looking at Daniel and you're saying, okay, there's something a little bit off. And I remember seeing Daniel for the first time, and it was a little bit uncomfortable in the room. There was some awkward silence, and he's like, dude, I know you want to ask me what's going on. And so I was like, all right, dude, what is up with you? Danny, why don't you start off? Because I know you have a disability. It doesn't, you've accomplished so many things in this world. You've clearly moved very beyond that. But tell everyone, just the elephant in the room, and then we'll get started with the interview. Dude, why do you look so strange, dude?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like I'm glad you asked from the get-go, because a lot of people take forever to ask the question, and some people, they will, like, just because they're nervous or they feel like I'm offended, they never ask it. So I thank you for asking from the get-go. Let's get that baby out of the way from the beginning. So obviously, I look different. I am a little bit of what you call an outlier, I would say, right? So and that's what I basically have two conditions. One is probably the most common, or the most known one, which is scoliosis, which I'm treating with that. Scoliosis basically the curvature of the spine. And then the second one, which is the one that you actually see, the one you know is like, okay, this is what really makes me a little strange on the physical qualities from the first time you see me. It's a very rare condition called Charcot-Levin syndrome. And just long story short, this is the guy that discovered it, right? So I'm named after a guy, the condition. But yeah, man, that's been a condition, and I mean, whatever you want to know about me, let me know, and I'll go more in depth. But that's the base of it, right? So that's what makes me look just a little bit quirky from the rest.
Gotcha. And I guess one of the first things, what this interview is going to cover today is not really focusing on the disability. It's going to focus on all the cool things you've been able to do. I remember I guess one of the things that you said to me when I had met you in Cebu for the first time that really kind of clicked was you said, hey, from an early age, I knew that I was born with a disability, and I realized that my brain still worked, or I could go and try to accomplish the things that I wanted to. You could kind of look at the disability and let it get you down, or you could move beyond that. Before we get into your background and what you've done in terms of entrepreneurship, do you have anything to say about that, or any motivation for other people?
My condition is visible, and everybody can see it, right? So, but everybody has their own challenges, right? Mine just happen to be more of a physical nature and obviously more visible to others. But look, man, I was blessed, right? I always say that I was blessed to be born uh, at the right time, to the right family, in the right country, right? You take any of the three components away, and I probably wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't be who I am, right? I was born at the right time where medicine allowed me to stay alive. It's the reality of life. I was born to the right family because I had a family that really didn't baby me, right? They really kind of is, and that's the main thing, right? Like, it's all mindset. I think the main thing is all mindset, right? Because the reality is, my condition is not gonna go away. And like you said before, right? Like, yeah, you would have a few options, right? Either two options. Either you let the condition define you in a negative way, where it holds you down and it kind of defines you in a negative thing, like, oh, I can't do this because, right? Or use it, which I think the most productive way was like, okay, there's my condition. There's not hiding under the rug and ignore it. It is what it is, right? Figure out these are my limitations. Like, I knew early on that, and I think my family, and especially my mom, because from the early beginning she didn't baby me and kind of hide, hey, and it didn't hide me and say, hey, Danny, you're perfectly okay. No, you're different, but it doesn't make you any less than anybody else, right? Like, your body, you're not gonna become a basketball player, you're not gonna become a baseball player. You can't. Your physical prowess is not gonna be the way to make it in life, right? That's not gonna be it. So with that in mind, I learned beyond that I'm not be physically prowess, but I got pretty sharp mind, right? And I just nurtured that. And that became my main thing. Like, whatever I do, I gotta make sure that is mind-based, right? And again, that's what I was born in the right country, right? I was born throughout an American citizen in America where they value mind prowess over most things, right? Where having a good mind, you have a bad body, you can still make it very far in life, right? And with that mindset, it really changed, defined the way I went about my life, right? It's like no matter what happens, as long as I have my mind, I can make it, right? And it's always having a positive attitude. If you believe you can, you can't. And if you believe you can, you probably can, right?
I love that quote. Yeah, that's one of my favorite ones. If you believe
Yeah,
you can, and if you can't,
yeah,
then you won't.
yeah,
I love it, man. And this is something I remember when I first met you. That's why it kind of clicked to me. You know, seeing you and the things you had accomplished. It's like, man, if Danny is this optimistic and this cheerful and has a good outlook on life, I really don't have to complain about. And so that's why it's always been such a good motivation. Now, I want to start to talk about your journey through entrepreneurship. And why don't you tell me how you first started with it? I know it's not like the most glamorous thing, and it's probably a little bit illegal, but
yeah,
what was your first jump into entrepreneurship?
yeah. That's very true. I usually don't tell you this to anybody really because it's not a proud thing, but it's the truth, right? Uh, uh, again, when I my first venture into entrepreneurship, I didn't call it that at the time, and I didn't see it as entrepreneurship. I just found it as a little kid trying to make money. I was a little kid, and I used to collect baseball cards. I know a lot of people collect different things. My thing was baseball cards, right? So I wanted to show my friends and people at school my collection of baseball cards. So I took it to school one day, and I showed around, and I noticed that a lot of people were like really show interest in my baseball cards and they're kind of like offering money to buy some. And obviously, I didn't want to sell my baseball cards. So I'm like, okay, Danny, let's put your thinking hat on. How can I keep my collection intact, but at the same time, let's make some money like that. I never really made money for on my own, right? Like, I love the opportunity. Like, what I can make my own little money here. So I kind of just figured out that in the flea market they sell baseball cards. So I would go every weekend to the flea market and buy. And there's a part where I'm not proud of it. True, they're knockoffs. They're not actual baseball cards. They're basically a cheap knockoff of baseball cards, right? So I would buy them for $1, right? Basically, I buy them both for $1, and then I would go to school the Monday or Tuesday afterwards and I take my baseball cards. And when people brought me money for it, right, I used to sell them for like 5, 10, 15. I think the highest I sold it for was like $40 or $50 for one baseball card. And I used to have that for a little bit, not too long, because the problem with selling things that are not legit, right, is that eventually your customer base finds out that you're selling that product, right? So very quickly, the parents of the kids found out and they wanted the money back. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, I never give any refunds back, but I did stop the business real quick.
Gotcha. So obviously, I love those kind of stories because I think it indicates, as someone who just you know that you want to make money, you've got this hobby, and you kind of went a little bit outside of the rules to make that happen. I think it's pretty hilarious that you never gave the refunds. Obviously, anyone
No.
watching this, let's only go with legitimate
Yes.
ways to make money.
Yes.
But that was very early on in your career. Now I understand when you got to college, right? You started a different kind of venture and something a little bit more legit. Why don't you tell me a little bit about how you first got into entrepreneurship, or you started getting surrounded by other people, that were
Yeah.
making money from businesses?
My first, I guess, foray into official entrepreneurship was uh, something called I basically. And if you have the way of watching this, you have families, you probably know about this. There's a little beanie or a little pacifier that comes with a little teddy bear attached or a plush toy, right? My idea is have the same thing, but have a plush toy where you connect it to any pacifier you want. Because the ones in the market right now, you gotta connect. It comes connected to the pacifier that it has, which is not. It's very limiting. If you're a mom with like 7, 8 pacifiers, now you gotta buy one for only a plush toy. It's kind of limiting. So that was my idea, and I learned 3D printing. I went to the college 3D printer, and I hired an engineer. Because look, I'm not a I, I'm a great idea guy. I'm not a really great on computers or that kind of 3D printing stuff. So I learned that whatever I can do, have somebody else better than me doing, right? And I tried that, and look, I'm not gonna lie, it failed. It failed miserably. I
I love it,
felt,
man.
yeah, I felt my ass, right? I felt my ass, but I learned so much, right? I learned so much, and I wouldn't change it for the world, right? That was my first entrepreneurship, but it was like failure, but it didn't keep me down, right? And
I
again,
love
that ties down to disability, right? Because look, again, my whole life has taught me like I fail all the time. Like that's part of life. Like I fail all the time. And my disability make things hard to some certain things for me to hard to do, and it kind of really taught me to toughen up and kind of don't let one setback keep you down.
Like pretty much for everyone. I don't think I've met a single person yet that has actually got it right on their first
Yeah.
shot. So that one obviously for the pacifiers doesn't work out, but you do work on something that does get a little bit of traction. Why don't you tell me about that?
Yeah. So the second venture, because look, man, I'm like, okay, this failed. I did like I didn't quite understand it, but it's called, I guess you call it a pivot. I'm like, okay, this failed. What's the next thing to do? Like, what am I doing next, right? And trust me, it's like the next idea didn't come quickly. Like, obviously, the story sounds like came from one to the next quickly, but there's a little gap between just me thinking of ideas of like, okay, what's next thing? Because it didn't stop me from like the fear didn't keep me down. It kind of like motivates like next time I do better. And the next idea which eventually I came up with uh was basically uh texting and driving. How to stop texting and driving. I basically the idea was pretty simple. Was every car made after 1992, I believe, had a computer on it, like a little a car computer, to make it easier, right? And you can plug in. So my idea was you do a little plug-in on that computer where whenever the driver was driving, right, the car was on, or they were driving, he was not able to text or do any kind of calls while he's driving through his phone, right? Because basically the little device would give like a signal that would stop it from working unless for emergency purposes, right? And that was a concept, right? And look, I kind of pitched it around to family members and friends, and they kind of like the idea, but I got the same kind of thing, like, oh, you can't do that. That's not possible. And look, just because people say it can't do it, doesn't mean it can't be done, right? So I'm like, no, this definitely, like, I don't know if it could be done, but I'm like, it sounds doable, right? So I used to go down for the next month or two, and it's like people understand, like, you don't like sometimes things take a while. Like I don't, I'm not an engineer. I'm not, right? I'm not an engineer. I can't engineer. I need some help to actually making this happen. I had the idea, but I didn't have the skill set. So for like the next month or two, I found every engineering club or computer club in the area that I was staying, college area that I was staying. And look, man, for a month or two, every week I go to these meetings, and every week people that didn't want to talk to me, they're like, no, this guy's is yes, he brings no value. I gotta do the work. I'm not that crazy about the idea, but I just kept persistent, man. Like this is the main thing with me. Like I'm very persistent. Like every week, I stayed there every week, and eventually, I was fortunate enough to meet my co-founder at the time, Michael, and he was the engineering expert. And look, man, he was the linchpin to everything. And without him, it wouldn't have worked because he validated me to the rest of the people, right? Because after we got Michael on board as engineer, within 2 3 weeks, we had three people on board, bro. It went from zero, just me with a crazy idea, with nothing, with nothing, to within 2 months, 2 months and a half, we have a group of 3 4 people. And again, I'm not paying them. There's no money. I'm broke, right? There's no money being paid. I'm just sending them on a dream of, hey, this could work. And we were blessed that uh, within maybe 2 months or 1 month of actually making the company, we actually had a working prototype. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't great, it had glitches, but it worked, right? It
Yeah.
worked enough to prove the concept, right? I guess what you call the MVP, right? And I said, this is enough. And we showed it to a few people, and we actually got interest from one VC that was open to the idea of maybe going to talks of going to funding, right? It was early on. I'm not saying it was a sure thing, but the fact that we just got interest from a VC was great, right? So that was an amazing experience.
I love it, man. So there's a lot to unpack there, and I want
Yeah.
to go through a little bit and then jump into the next session. But so definitely a lot to unpack there because it's like you start one business, totally fails, right? Doesn't go
Yes.
anywhere. Then you get an idea for a second business. You realize that early on, how this thing is going to be successful is you need some other people who have some technical understanding to get this thing done. And so you go around very persistent, just over and over and over again. No one wants to work with you. No one's ready to work for free. This is not the idea that they're looking for. Your family's doubting for you. And then eventually, after enough going to these engineering meetings, after enough going to these club meetings, you get someone who says, okay, I'll come and help you. And then after that, you guys are actually able to build a working prototype and actually show it to a VC and get some interest. Now, I want to get into the next part of the story, which is, you know, you were talking earlier about having that corporate mindset, wanting the job. From what I understand, you've got two different directions to go in. You could follow this idea, or you've got this real sexy, appealing paycheck. Tell me what decision that you went
Yeah.
with, and yeah, we'll go from there.
We got the VC interest, right? And look, at that same time, I was basically graduating college, right? And I'm a very like, I think it's important to keep your options open. So I was still doing interviews for normal corporate jobs because I'm not, I don't got money. I'm basically broke, so I got to think of a backup plan in case it doesn't work. And I ended up getting a few banking offers from college. And at that point, I'm graduating, and I got, I guess, the red pill, blue pill, right? Like two options, A and B. Do I take the sexy or like the exciting adventure of keep going go to the VC route? Maybe we'll get funding, right? We'll go to meetings and maybe we'll get funding for that VC. We might not have. Like it was still an unknown. Or do I take the short thing and go into a corporate job and see where that goes, right? And that was very tough for me. I think, and that'd be tough for anybody, right? It's like, how do you choose where to go? And I had to make a tough choice because it wasn't just me, right? Because uh, if I left the startup, there were three other people besides me that were working the startup, right? And they were committed to it, right? They were committed to it, and they were okay with going all in, right? So that was a tough choice for me, and like, and really kind of build your bones in a sense, right? At that time, I chose that I did a very deep soul searching and kind of just had a very honest talk to myself in the mirror. Right? I think it's important to be honest with yourself about what you are and what you aren't. And I thought that at that time, I wasn't a person, I wasn't equipped enough to really make that idea into a successful venture, right? I didn't feel that I was ready or able to really take it past the point that I had it, right? So I said, okay, I think it's best that I'd go the corporate route and kind of learn a little bit more on that side, right? Let's see what I can learn from there. And look, to be honest, have a reliable paycheck, right? So it was kind of important at the time. I wanted to feel like success a little bit, right? My family puts investment in me from a little kid, right? To go to college, and I wanted to just, you know, make them happy and have a more stable life at the time. So I chose the corporate route.
I totally follow that. And, you know, I think we're probably right around the exact same time frame, and our
Yep.
stories are about to intersect in just a minute. Because you and I did a very similar thing. We were getting to the point of being done college. You go and take a job. I go and take a job. But I think we end up at a very similar point in time. So what happened next then?
Yeah, so I got into banking. Fast forward about 2 years, I was in banking for 2 years, which it sounds like a little, but in my time, it felt like forever, man. Those 2 years was long in my mind. I was not happy. Look, I'll be honest, man. Like, I was grateful. I guess I had guilty remorse, right? Because it's hard like, I did not like what I was doing, but at the same time, I felt guilty about it. I felt guilty about not being happy of having the job that people die for, right? I was one of the youngest in my division, if not the youngest, making really good money. I was living in the great city of Miami at the time. I mean, it seems like the dream job was banking, right? It's like the dream job for most, and here I am, and I couldn't be more miserable. I was,
Yeah,
I was miserable, and I would call my family and like let them know. And it's kind of hard, right? Because like, how do you tell people? How do you tell people you're miserable when everything sounds so good, right?
sure.
Uh, so my mind's like, I'm gonna keep doing this for a while. And just there's my life, and then about 2 years in, a buddy of mine, which is my buddy and your buddy, right? Kind of the linchpin between you and me. Eric comes to visit me, which he used to be my old roommate in college. So small world, right? So he comes to visit me in Miami, and he kind of stays with me for a little bit. And while he's with me, I notice that he's working and stuff, and I'm like, dude, what the hell are you doing? Like, tell me, like, what are you doing for work? You just came from Europe and Asia, I believe you were at the time. How are you affording this? Like, how are you gonna? First of all, how can you afford it? Second of all, how do you have the time to do this, right? Because I'm
Sure.
like, I'm making good money, and I can't take off for 40, 50 days. I will have a job to come back to. I'll
Yeah.
be fired, right? So, and he tells me, hey, I'm doing Amazon, which for me, look, this is how naive I am, or was, still am in many ways, right? How naive I was about like the all the e-commerce nonsense, right? Which like, I'm like, what up, Amazon? I thought only Amazon sold Amazon. He's like, no, no, no. Most people, most things you buy on Amazon are from third-party people, third-party sellers. I'm like, wait a minute, man. Let's sit down. Let's kind of just let's talk about this point by point. Throw me how you show me how to do this. And he kind of gave me like a rough thing. And I'm like, look, man. After that little meeting, I was convinced, like, hey, if you if you say you can teach me, I'll leave my job right now, man. Like I'll leave it, right? And look, man, I don't recommend this. Like, I want to be clear. Like, I don't recommend what I did the next thing I did, but I don't recommend that. I went as a preface it. He said, okay, I gave my 15-day notice, and I left my job. Right, I had no knowledge in Amazon. All I knew is my buddy that was living with me for a little bit. He was doing it. And he was making okay money, and he's promised me that that if he can teach me. That's it. No products, like no plan, nothing. I'm not happy. What's gonna happen? I go back to banking. So what? I'm here anyways, right? So I gave my 15-day notice, and we moved to Austin, Texas.
Danny, tell us from your perspective. Is it a real way to make money online? How's it going now for you?
It's going great. Right? I can't complain. Like life is like I live an okay life. I can't complain. Right? Full answer is yes, 100%. Like Amazon is definitely a way to make money online, right? So it's no, I'm sure it's gonna be a lot of stories. You gotta have a channel that are probably Amazon sellers, right? There's no sure thing in life, right? Can you make Amazon money on Amazon? 100%. Do I make money on Amazon? Yes, I make money on Amazon, but I do that with a caveat, right? I was blessed again. I've been very blessed and fortunate in my life, right? I had a little bit of money saved to risk. Worst case scenario, I knew that I could go back banking. Third, the person I didn't learn from, the source of my learning, of my knowledge, was somebody that I knew firsthand that I trusted. Like I didn't, it's hard sometimes to learn to buy a course when you don't really know that person behind it, right? There's a bit of a risk factor. I was blessed in the sense that I knew the person teaching me. And I've seen firsthand the sales that they did because they were living with me for a short time frame while they were doing that, right? So it was a very mitigated risk for me, right? So for me, it was a worth the risk. Like if you're watching this, you gotta really evaluate what's the best route for you. This is very important. Like just because I did it and I did well, I had a lot of things going for me. I was the I was very fortunate that the chips were my favor for me to succeed in Amazon. With that being said, I still failed, man. Like I mean it's clear. Like not every product I sold was a winner, right? And I'll give this caveat so that you guys understand. And I'm sure Tony, you know the story already, so I'm gonna you guys know I kind of gonna re saying what you already know about me. But when I first launched, like I launched with four products, right? I had enough capital to invest on four different products on Amazon. Out of those four products, only one really made it, right? There were like I do understand like there were two straight failures. Like they didn't make me money, went to basically went to the red on those, right? One made me money because it was seasonal, only at one point, one time a year, like 2 or 3 days out of the year, right? Uh, and only the fourth one actually made me consistent money, and it wasn't crazy money, like it was okay money, right? But that was enough, right? That little success for me was enough. That okay, I got the idea. This could work. This will work, right? And from there, I kind of grew it to what it is right now, where it's a good business. I can't complain. I live a pretty good life, and most importantly, what I think is the most important about any kind of e-commerce or kind of this online business, it gives you freedom, man. Like even if you make the same amount or less than your normal corporate job. Look, my corporate job, I think I forgot how many days they give me like maybe 15 or 25 days of vacation every year, and I had to ask permission every time. And if I got sick, it counted towards my vacation time, right? So think about that. if you make the same amount of money, a little bit less, but you can just, if you want to spend time with your girlfriend, your wife, your parents, your kids, you can take that time, right? You can take that time. You do an online business and kind of just have that level of freedom that you just won't have in a corporate job. And that for me is priceless, right? I would have taken less money selling on e-commerce for the freedom that I have now.
Amazing insight, amazing tips. I guess, we covered a few of the ones. I had a couple last questions for you here, but I think we covered some of them. Number one, around the learning, right? That's a big thing. I think I remember very much that summer. I remember, you had already learned how to sell on Amazon. I remember moving out to Cebu and
Yeah.
kind of learning some of the things from Eric. Obviously, we were both super lucky that we got to learn from someone who was already, already selling. There's definitely a lot of fake gurus out there. We talked a little bit about, like, if you don't have, I guess one question I would have for you, Danny, is like, would you recommend, if someone doesn't have any money saved up, would you recommend them ever to go and try to start an Amazon FBA business, and that's like their only way to make money? Or like, what are your thoughts there?
I wouldn't say it's the only way, right? The thing is, I think it's hard, like, because every I would say my opinion. I think everybody has to make their own choice in their own life, how they choose best to live their own life. My opinion is, if you have minimal or low amount of money saved, uh, the Amazon landscape can be very competitive if you don't know what you're doing. And I know you might see a lot of people saying, "Hey, you can start off with little as this and that," and that's not really true, right? There's you have to kind of, you got what you gotta learn from. All these courses cost money, and you can watch free YouTube channels and free YouTube videos, but it's not gonna be the same, right? And then if you buy the wrong course, then you end up with zero, right? So I would recommend, if you want to go into e-commerce with little to no money saved, look, man, Etsy is a great platform now. I do say there's more competitive. When I did it, it was still younger, and its age, so it was much easier to be successful on Etsy. But to this day, if you can make things and you can make handmade things, Etsy is probably the best route to start off an e-commerce, right? Because you don't gotta buy in bulk. You literally just make the stuff and you post it, and you kind of learn how to how the online e-commerce business works. And if you do well on that, then maybe go out there and make your own Shopify store or go into Amazon. But I think there's different options that might be better suited for your capital needs if than Amazon, if you have little to no capital.
Gotcha. Well, Danny, thank you so much for taking the time for this, for the interview today. Guys, you're going to be seeing Danny a lot more on this channel. He's going to be one of our co-hosts. I just want to recap a couple of the key takeaways I got today. Number one is, like, if you're between having a career or you're going to go and follow a startup, you're going to go follow starting your own business. It seems like a big takeaway that I've heard from you, and I keep hearing repeatedly, is if you're limited, especially by, like, if you're not super invested, if you don't wake up every day and you're like, hey, I actually do enjoy my job, this is fun, probably start to think about the other things that you could do out there. And if you do fail, potentially you can always just go back and get another job. The other key takeaway that I think is real important as well is in terms of learning, right? Like, there's going to be courses that could be really good courses, and then there's courses that could be garbage. So
Yeah.
you got to make sure, before you go and spend money, make sure that what you're getting actually is good. It's going to help you to learn. Danny, one last thing that I will ask of you is, like, you are the best person I've ever seen in terms of mindset, in terms of motivation. What tips, if any, do you have for people if they're struggling? They're saying, hey, I know I want to go and accomplish these things, but I just need to get the ability to go and do it, or to motivate myself. Do you have any kind of tips you might give to anyone?
Look, man, I'm just driven to prove, right? I think I think I got an inner desire to be something in life. Like, I feel like I gotta accomplish something, right? So for me, is my dream factor is, I wanna prove that I'm worthy, right? That I can do it, right? Because me, like, I'm sure a lot of people in this that are watching right now, like, maybe not directly, but indirectly, like, not everybody's gonna believe in you, man, right? Like, and that's perfectly fine. Like, they don't have to. It's not people's obligation or right to believe in you, right? But that you should use that as motivation, right? That if people don't believe in you, like, look, man, like, yes, like, believe in yourself, right? And that's why I was blessed. Like, I was blessed. Like I said, I was blessed that I have a great family that they kind of instilled me very young in life. Like, look, if nobody's telling you pretty, tell yourself you're pretty. Like literally, I'll tell you that that kind of just sums it perfectly, right? And it kind of it's like a silly story, and people might not like it for the truth, right? And it really kind of encompasses the way you should sometimes view your life, view life. Was like when I was younger, I used to my mom used to I used to pass bathroom times or just the living room, and my mom will every morning or every day, I will catch her look in the mirror and telling herself how pretty she is, right? And I know that sounds vain, right? I know it sounds vain and like, why would you do that? So I asked her, like, hey, mom, why the hell are you doing this? Like, hey, Danny, if nobody's telling you pretty, something you can take yourself. Sometimes your biggest cheater is gonna be yourself. And it sounds dumb, but for me, it's like it really, it really kind of resonated, and I kept it really within myself. Like sometimes your biggest motivator, your biggest cheater is gonna be you, man. And if you got that rock, then the rest kind of just, he's fine, man.
I
He's fine.
totally agree, man. And that's the best advice. And it's okay, it's okay to say that, man. Like, I know for me personally, like a big one is absolutely wanting to prove people wrong and wanting to prove
Yeah,
that I actually can do it. So I think that's the best advice. Find out what motivates you, find out what gets you going,
yeah.
and then go and execute. Danny, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the channel, man. We'll be seeing more of you soon. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Thank you, man. I'm excited, man. Till
Have an
next
awesome
time.
day. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching. I want to encourage you to go and check out our digital marketing playlist. There's a bunch of videos that have a ton of information and good insights on the world of digital marketing. Go and check it out.